Queridos colegas, vamos a retomar la sesión. Como bien ustedes saben, el acta de la sesión de ayer y los textos aprobados en ella están a su plena disposición. Entiendo que nadie quiere intervenir al respecto, con lo que se aprobaría el acta de la sesión. El siguiente punto del orden del día son declaraciones del Consejo y de la Comisión. Incendios forestales devastadores en el sur de Europa. La necesidad de reforzar la ayuda de la Unión para revertir la pérdida masiva de bosques y mejorar la preparación de la Unión. Les recordaría que la sesión se ha reanudado, que por favor, si quieren mantener otras conversaciones, lo hagan. Please, colleagues, if you want to speak with your colleagues, use outside of the room. Con todo, vamos a empezar el debate. El primer turno será en nombre del Consejo, de la ministra de Asuntos para la Unión Europea de la Presidencia rotatoria de Dinamarca, Bjerre, por 5 minutos.
President, honourable members, Commissioner, this summer wildfires caused major destruction in Europe. They severely damaged our environment, but also our towns and economies. Sadly, human lives were lost. Our thoughts are with the families of those lost. The situation is tragic. During only 10 days in mid-August, the burnt area in both Portugal and Spain was over 500,000 hectares. This is the highest surface of burnt areas ever recorded in the mid-August in those two countries. In recent years, wildfires have also hit regions in Europe which were not so exposed earlier. They now go well beyond the Mediterranean region. This is the new normal. Climate change is an underlying cause of wildfire. It is not a coincidence that 2025 was the warmest summer recorded in Europe. With climate change, wildfires have become more common and more severe. We talk less about climate change than we did just 5 years ago, but it is still happening, and we still need to deal with it. That is why the fight against climate change is a priority for us. The Danish presidency aims to reach agreement in Council this month on our 2040 climate target. And the EU contribution to the COP30 in Brazil. It is ambitious and we don't have much time. So we are working very hard to make it happen. That is why preventing wildfires starts with strong policies to mitigate and adapt to climate change. On mitigation, the EU has been supporting global efforts with one of the most ambitious climate frameworks. The EU and its member states are also committed to increasing the capacity to adapt, building resilience and reducing exposure to extreme events like wildfires. This is a key aspect of the EU adaptation strategy. When the wildfires came this summer, member states made huge efforts to respond as quickly as possible. The Union Civil Protection Mechanism was activated several times, again showing its worth. Yet, this summer proved that dealing with wildfires in the middle of heat waves is very challenging. We need to be better prepared to respond to wildfires, just like other risks and threats that the Union faces. Our leaders have stressed several times the importance of more coordination in the areas of preparedness and resilience. The presentation of the Preparedness Union strategy by the Commission and the High Representative in March this year must be seen in this context. Europe needs to move from a reactive approach to a preparedness by design approach, one that anticipates, prevents and responds to a wide range of crises. President, honourable members, Commissioner, preparedness, resilience and crisis management are a clear priority of the Danish presidency. Our citizens expect us to do better. Some of the policy actions in the Preparedness Union strategy have been or will be presented by the Commission during our presidency, and we will examine them closely in the Council. In particular, we welcome the legislative proposal on the revision of the Union Civil Protection Mechanism presented in late July. We have started its examination and as a priority and aim to get as far as possible. The mechanism is certainly an EU success story. It coordinates the support to a member state that is overwhelmed. Since its start, the mechanism has helped many communities. This includes those hit by forest fires. This is why the revision of the mechanism is so important. It needs to keep delivering the successful cooperation it does today. Once our respective institutions have agreed on our position on the proposal, we look forward to negotiating with the Parliament on this important matter. Thank you very much for your attention.
Muchas gracias por su intervención. Ahora tiene la palabra la comisaria Lahbib por 5 minutos, que intervendrá en nombre de la Comisión Europea.
Thank you, Mr. President. Dear Minister Bjerre, honourable members, this has been a record summer of wildfires across southern Europe. But this has also been a summer of action and a summer of solidarity. Year after year, we see how climate change makes disasters worse, including wildfires. The 2024 European Climate Risk Assessment ranked them among the top climate risks. Global warming makes extreme weather like this about 40 times more likely. And not all regions are heating at the same pace. Europe is the fastest warming continent. Since the 80s, Europe has warmed at twice the global average. That means we must be more ready than ever for heat waves and wildfires. Dear colleagues, this year's wildfires did not take us by surprise. The Commission took strong action to prepare for this summer. A team of wildfire experts were monitoring the situation hour by hour at our Emergency Response Coordination Centre. The Commission also prepositioned more than 670 firefighters from 14 European countries in Spain, Portugal, Greece, France and Italy. Ready to support local teams on the ground, our wildfire fleet was ready for action. And our Copernicus emergency service stood ready to provide satellite images to member states. Despite all this preparation, more than 1 million hectares had burned in the EU by September 3rd. This is over 3 times the 2006-2024 average for this time of year, and the most since 2006. That's an area, for instance, larger than Cyprus, or almost a third the size of my country, Belgium. Spain and Portugal alone account for more than half of the destruction. Since the start of the summer, the Union Civil Protection Mechanism has been activated 18 times to fight wildfires in Europe and beyond, including in Israel and in Syria. Albania, Greece, North Macedonia each called for help 3 times. Bosnia and Herzegovina, Cyprus, Bulgaria, Montenegro, Spain and Portugal also relied on this support. Yes, this has been a challenging summer for wildfires, but it has also been what I call the summer of solidarity. When one country calls, the European Union responds, united and in solidarity. At the heart of this solidarity was the UCPM and its 24/7 Emergency Response Coordination Centre. Together, they deployed 58 aircrafts, 38 planes and 20 helicopters, and more than 740 firefighters and rescuers. And I want to pay tribute to them, particularly those who lost their lives while fighting the fires. My thoughts are with their families and their beloved ones and their colleagues. Their courage and dedication save lives, homes and landscapes. Our wildfire fleet showed once again that it is indispensable. Soon, the EU will be equipped with its own fleet of 12 new planes and several helicopters. And Copernicus provided its rapid mapping service 32 times to guide operations in real time. Honourable members, this year's wildfires send a clear message. We are improving, anticipating, preventing and responding better and quicker, but we must do much more on prevention and preparedness. And that is why this spring the Commission adopted the Preparedness Union strategy, a forward-looking plan to make Europe better prepared for the crisis of tomorrow. It takes an all-hazards approach, embedding preparedness into every EU policy and strengthening cooperation across all levels of governments and society. It will make our Emergency Response Coordination Centre more proactive and integrated Copernicus more closely into national early warning and planning systems. And we are also strengthening rescEU, or Strategic Reserve of Disaster Response Capacities and Stockpiles. Originally created for wildfires, rescEU now responds to earthquakes, to storms, to floods, and supports Ukraine. But to stay effective, it needs investments, fresh capacity, replenished stockpiles and long-term readiness. As part of the stockpiling strategy, the Commission proposes to bring existing reserves together and explore new capacities where Europe can add the most added value. These efforts are part of the ongoing revision of the Union Civil Protection Mechanism, including in the MFF package. Preparedness by design is at the heart of the Preparedness Union strategy. It means building preparedness into every policy area, including wildfires, of course. Preparedness investments will also be central to the new national and regional partnership plans, part of the MFF proposal. Preparedness is now a core objective of the national and regional partnership plans, giving member states a chance to design tailor-made investment for their own needs. Population preparedness is central to our Preparedness Union strategy. It gives citizens, local communities and vulnerable groups the knowledge and skills to prevent, respond, but also recover from wildfires. And the citizens, local communities and vulnerable groups bring as well their valuable expertise and skills to support societal preparedness and resilience. Dear colleagues, this message from this summer is, I think, loud and clear. Europe must focus more on preventing wildfires before they start. We need more well-targeted investment and smarter policies to build fire-resilient landscapes. This is not only about forest and farmland. Whole ecosystems have been destroyed. Biodiversity is under threat, and rural communities are left with deep and long-lasting scars. The economic costs are also rising. Lost crops, damaged infrastructure, disrupted livelihoods, all adding to the human suffering. That is why we are developing an ambitious European framework for climate resilience to be adopted in the second half of next year. It will set out how the EU will tackle the climate challenges ahead, supporting member states, candidate countries and our wider neighbourhood. Preventing catastrophic wildfires will take both traditional investment in infrastructure and ecosystem-based strategies. Active management of high-risk areas, through measures like grazing or even controlled burning can greatly reduce the risk of future fires. Nature restoration and wildfire prevention go hand in hand, and we encourage Member States to integrate both in their landscape planning. Of course, primary responsibility lies with Member States, but the EU supports prevention through several funds. The Agricultural Fund for Rural Development, Cohesion Policy and the Recovery and Resilience Facility. Together, these instruments help across the full disaster cycle: prevention, preparedness, response and recovery. According to the European Court of Auditors, at least 3.5 billion in EU funding has been allocated to tackle forest fires between 2021 and 2027, reducing the vulnerability of more than 130 million people. Our common agricultural policy, for instance, helps maintain landscapes that can resist and recover from wildfires, reducing losses. The EU also funds forest restoration and fire prevention through direct grants like the LIFE programme, research under Horizon Europe and transition support via the Just Transition mechanism. All of this is aligned with the European Green Deal and global biodiversity goals. And just as importantly, these efforts protect local economies and help revive rural areas. The EU also shows solidarity after disasters by helping Member States and candidate countries recover. This is the role of the European Union Solidarity Fund. It provides support when the total damage of a disaster exceeds the threshold set out in the regulation. Since the creation of the fund in 2022, 4 Member States have received assistance from the EUSF in relation to wildfires for a total amount of 151 million. Reliable data on wildfire risk is essential for effective prevention and response. That is the main goal of the Commission's proposal for a forest monitoring regulation. So I urge you, honourable members, to support this proposal in your plenary vote. They are vital for tracking and tackling wildfires. Honourable members, wildfires will remain a challenge, but we can still prepare better and reduce their impact to the minimum. With stronger prevention, smarter preparedness and deeper solidarity, Europe can protect its people, its forests and also its future. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Commissioner. Ahora vamos a empezar el turno de intervenciones en nombre de los grupos políticos y, en primer lugar, tiene la palabra Raúl de la Hoz en nombre del Grupo del Partido Popular Europeo.